I wanted to capture my journey and experience with mold illness and share the experience here as a means to help others that might be sick and not getting answers and ruling things out. We had a leak in our home and we never paid attention to it really. We had it addressed. We thought the roofer or the builder fixed it. We went on about our lives and I ended up getting really sick and my family got sick. I spent 11 months asking questions, advocating, just really working to figure out what was happening to me. I was deteriorating. And so here I wanted to pull together my story, my resources, my test, my therapies that allowed me to heal from mold illness, which is also known as chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So this is my story, and I hope that it's able to help you if you're trying to figure out what's wrong, that you're able to identify or rule out that you could be suffering from mold illness. So this actually all started for me in November of 2023, so a little less than 2 years ago, on a family vacation to California. I was on an airplane and a deep ache started in my left side. I looked to my husband, who is a family medicine physician, and I said to him, hey, something is really wrong. This does not feel like a kidney stone. And noted, right? And okay, we'll get off the plane, we'll figure it out. And we were going to California for a football game and for Disneyland with our kids. So I kind of put it out of my head, but in the following days, things got worse to the point where I could not wear like a backpack, for example. This left side ache was just debilitating. I was up at night thinking, oh, I should go to the ER, but I didn't want to ruin the trip for my kids, so I just power through it. And the pain continued to spread through my diaphragm and into my left breast. And by the end of the trip, I was not sleeping. The waistband on my blue jeans was killing me. My bra, I mean, anything. It was just excruciating pain. And we were thinking maybe this is GI. So we get back to Texas after the trip and run a GI map and go to the GI doc. The GI doc takes a look at me and says, I really don't think this is GI. So cleared there. I get a GI map test back and it does show I have a protozoa. So great, this is what's causing my problem. I have a protozoa, I get on a treatment for it, 10 days of a prescription, and I should be in good shape. 10 days later, I am not in good shape and my symptoms are getting worse. The pain throughout my body, most significantly on the left side, is this internal sunburn, and you can describe it as almost I was like plugged into the wall, and there was this just current nonstop moving up and down the left side of my body. And through the next couple weeks, I'm on a road trip to Dallas, and the seat belt, the left side where it's buckled, becomes just unbearable. Simple thing. Every day we're in a seatbelt and I cannot handle it. I'm putting a pillow between me and the seatbelt. And 24 hours later, I'm so sick, again, wanting to go to the ER. And I tell my husband, hey, like we need to head back. I need to be close to healthcare. So we get back home from our road trip and I head to the ER and they do a scan, a CT on me looking for kidney stone. There's no kidney stone. I look pretty good. We also run some blood work on me and my blood work comes back fine. Maybe my thyroid levels are a little elevated, but other than that, I'm in pretty good shape on paper and in pictures. But things were getting bad. I think it's important to note, I was coming into this, a fit 42-year-old, sound mind, mom, high energy, able to juggle a lot. And all of a sudden, the balls were starting to fall. My vision was getting worse. I was up all night, and that's not how I was. That's not who I was. So after we do the CT, we do the blood work, things are looking okay. I'm like, okay, like something is going on. We have to get to the bottom of this. And more symptoms start popping up. And I'm at home. I home office, I of course live at home, so I'm spending a lot of time at home in my new build construction home. Through the end of December, I start waking up every night at about 2 o'clock in the morning with my heart racing, and I'm peeing a whole lot during the night. Several trips to the bathroom, which is not normal. And again, my heart rate from rest is jumping at 120, 130, just crazy. So I start going to the ER almost nightly because I'm so panicked and these symptoms are so intense. And mind you, there is no rest, there is no relief. This zinging that is happening is constant. It's just like I'm constantly vibrating with this pain. So that's Christmas 2023. On Christmas Eve, my husband is so desperate for help for me that he reaches out to his doctor colleague, and he's willing to see us on Christmas Eve. So we go to his office, and this is, I mind you, after 8 trips to the ER where they're suggesting I'm a psych case, I need to be on psych meds. Chronic pain is tough, but there's nothing wrong, and I just kind of get dismissed. So we go and see my husband's doctor colleague, and he sees me and sees what's going on and my decline, because he knew me before all of this. And this is over just 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks max. And he can clearly see me declining in all aspects. My neurological symptoms, just everything. So as this develops, I'm trying to work through the holidays. A very busy season for us. One of my colleagues is out on maternity leave, so I'm carrying her load as well. And there's deadlines to meet, goals to make, quotas to exceed. And I'm trying to do this all as I'm getting sicker and sicker. So finally, I take short-term disability. I can't work anymore. I can hardly parent because I am in so much pain. I cannot regulate the temperature of my body. I'm on the floor next to a heater trying to stay warm while cool off at the same time. It's just wild. My body is going absolutely crazy. So fast forward to January 2024, the doctor visits start. Over the course of the next 6-8 months, I will see 15 doctors plus, some second and third opinions. I will have tens of scans, MRI, CT, labs, you name it. The doctors that I saw include thyroid, so endocrinology, neurology, urology, of course, family medicine. I also saw sports medicine. We saw GI docs. We saw OB-GYN. I saw every doctor you can think of. At this point, my symptoms include double vision. Again, I cannot regulate my body temperature. This pain continues to just grow inside of me. I am peeing up to 60 times a day. But every doctor I see, well, yes, your thyroid's, a little bit elevated. Oh, it could be a pituitary tumor, so let's rule that out. They scan for pituitary, thank God, no pituitary tumor, but no answers either, and I'm getting sicker. Then I head to urology, and I get diagnosed with interstitial cystitis. Great, I have an answer. I actually book a trip to California to go to a therapy clinic that focused specifically on interstitial cystitis, which is in the urinary tract, because they think that's the best diagnosis for me. And just before I get on the airplane, I notice this spot on the right side of my head, and it's swelling, almost like a goose egg. But I'm determined to get to California because I want to treat interstitial cystitis. I want to heal. I'm getting sicker, and I want to heal. So I call my husband, and he says, hey, as soon as you land in California, this is a different trip to California, as soon as you get there, let's go do a blood test. So I end up at Quest, and the blood test comes back, and my D-dimer is more than triple what it's supposed to be. And if you have an elevated D-dimer, it can mean several things. It could mean you're pregnant, it could mean cancer, it can mean inflammation, it can mean that there's blood clotting as well. And I wasn't pregnant, I didn't have cancer because I'd had so many scans, we'd ruled that out. But my blood was in fact clotting. And so while I was there in California trying to navigate the interstitial cystitis therapy, which come to find out I really never had in the first place. We were just looking for an answer. I started on aspirin in an effort to just, if there was a blood clot, to kind of get ahead of it. So I get through California and I come back and I'm not any better. And this zinging in my body, this just chronic pain is nonstop. And throughout these months, there are ER visits peppered in, right? And they're like, try this pain medicine, try that pain medicine. Nothing is touching this pain. Neurology is trying to rule out stroke, MS, Parkinson's. Those all get ruled out. But as the spring progresses, this knot on my head, this egg on my head continues to swell. So all my systems are just a wreck. My left arm starts to retract. I start dragging my left leg. And by summertime, I can't even get my foot in my shoe. It's just like my brain saying, like, put your foot in your shoe, and it's not going in there. I have complete double vision. If I'm driving, there's times when I was like on the highway driving and I'd be like, where am I going? Like I totally forget where I was going. I couldn't remember our babysitter's name. My memory in my mind was just like deteriorating. It just wasn't near sharp. And mind you, I was like a walking sales force. I knew your name, I knew your kids, I knew where they went to college. And all of this was just like slipping away from me. And I'm thinking, is this dementia? Is this Alzheimer's? And the whole time I'm laying in bed in my home. My mother-in-law and my mom they swap weekly visits to help take care of my family. My husband continues to work. And at this point, I went from short-term disability to long-term disability because I wasn't able to work. I was deteriorating. I was getting really sick. And we weren't getting any answers. I had test after test. We ruled out everything, which is such a blessing, but I was getting sicker. I mean, it just made no sense. So from November 2023 until August 2024 was a really dark season. I was getting sick. I was seeing every doctor you could imagine, running every test, received a couple of misdiagnoses. We were able to rule a lot of scary things out, but I was still getting sick. I couldn't parent my kids. I couldn't work. Couldn't be a wife. I didn't know who I was. I was super depressed. At this point, through testing, we confirmed my blood was clotting, but we didn't really know why my blood was clotting. I had crazy inflammation throughout my body, vision gone, and then I actually developed like this tremor in my hands, and then I was like shaking. It was weird. I didn't know what was going on. So wild. And I could go see doctors, but I wasn't getting answers. And I was like alone. My kids would be at school, my husband would be at work, and I'd be like in this house just praying to God, like, help me figure this out. Why did this happen to me? Like, what did I do? Am I going to be here in a couple months for my kids? Like, all of these things were just running through me. And so in July of 2024, I got pneumonia. So I'm already sick, and then I end up with pneumonia in July. And mind you, in June, I actually went back to work because we're a two-income family, and I didn't want to lose my job. I'd been with the company for 15 years. So I said, I'm going to find a way to go back to work and power through this. And I was telling myself, I'll figure this out, or by June, I'll get better. So I planned my return to work in June. I worked through the month of June, had several ER trips during June. And then on the weekend of July 4th, they confirmed I had pneumonia. And I did a couple rounds of antibiotics, and it wasn't clearing. So I'm in the ER, and the PA there said, hey, this is an atypical pneumonia. It's not clearing from antibiotics. This could be fungal pneumonia. I didn't know what fungal pneumonia was, and she suggested that we do a lung biopsy. But at this point, I'm so sick, I'm thinking, I cannot handle a lung biopsy. I won't make it through this. So I go home, and I ask my husband, hey, is there a way that we can test for fungus in my body without a lung biopsy? He said, sure, we can do a urine test. So my husband sends off a urine test. We use Rupa Labs to do that, and it comes back a couple days later lit up like a Christmas tree with mycotoxins. I didn't even know what a mycotoxin was. So my husband says, something's going on, but I don't know what to do with you. So he refers me back to his doctor friend that we had seen in December of 2023 that had seen my decline. And this doctor said, hey, I think you could have mold poisoning. And I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know somebody that does. So my doctor in Lubbock referred me to a doctor in Weatherford. So now this is August of 2024, and I'm still declining. Again, can't wear any clothes but muumuus. I'm living in muumuus at this point. My vision is shot, my memory's shot, left arm still retracted, my leg is dragging, I can barely walk the cul-de-sac in our neighborhood, and I pack up and I go to this doctor in Weatherford, Texas. My mom accompanies me on the flight because I'm so sick. I'm a hot mess, but hopeful. So lo and behold, I meet Dr. Orsini at Alpha Care Wellness, and he does a bunch of blood work on me to determine if I'm suffering from mold illness, if I'm suffering from CIRS. And at this point, I'm willing to try anything. Take my blood, test me, you bet. And it comes back 2 weeks later, and he's like, hey, you have mold illness. You are suffering from mold exposure. And he said 3 things have to be true to be suffering from CIRS or mold illness. The first is genetic predisposition. So we confirmed that with the blood test. 2, you have to have a virus of some sort. Note, I had COVID in August of 2023. And the third thing is you have to have prolonged exposure to mold. Well, he says, you need to go home, back to West Texas, test your home, test your office, and test your car. You have mold somewhere. Do you live in an old house? No, I live in a new build. It was built 3 or 4 years ago. Test your house, he says. So I get back to Lubbock, and my husband does an at-home mold test, pulling air samples from different parts of the house, and it comes back with significant, findings. And at that point, we share it with the doctor, and he said, well, you might want to call in professionals. So then we do. We have mold scientists, mold detectives come into the house, and they ask us a series of questions. They're putting moisture meters in the house. They're cutting out sections of the walls. And, every home has a little bit of mold, and they find, minimal mold. But he says maybe enough to make you sick. The environmentalist that we had to the house, maybe enough to make you sick. So at that point I said, okay, genetic predisposition, we know when I had a virus, and there's a little bit of mold. This is what it is. I'm good. So I feel like I'm on the path. A couple days later, I get this overwhelming sense, and I'm like, I need to have those environmental guys back out. This is not resolved. It was just this feeling like it just kept nagging at me. So I called my husband at work, and I said, hey, we got to have the environmental guys back out here. He said, okay, if that's what you want. I said, yeah, I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of this. So sure enough, the guys come back out a few days later, and they're asking me more and more questions, water leaks, so on and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, we had a water leak when we first moved in May of 2021. There was a water leak up there in our roof that our builder had fixed. So they get up there, and they're up there for a few minutes, and they come back down and they say, Mrs. Weiss, you have black mold, you have Stachybotrys in your attic from that water leak. And they pulled back the insulation. Sure enough, there's black mold throughout. And it would have been missed, but something in me kept saying, look harder. So we really confirmed that prolonged mold exposure. I worked from home. I lived at home. As I was sick, I was laying in bed for 11 months, just breathing it in, and I just kept getting sicker and sicker. So it all came together. I was getting sicker and sicker because I had CIRS, and I continued to be in that mold environment. So at least I had some answers. Praise God, I didn't have MS. Praise God, I didn't have Parkinson's. It wasn't cancer. I didn't have a pituitary tumor. I didn't have dementia. I didn't have Alzheimer's. But I was wrecked. My body was wrecked from the inflammation and from the mold exposure, just mycotoxins throughout. My doctor will describe it as all system, total system deregulation. As we got into this, the more and more I found out, I mean, I'd been to the eye doc, I'd been to all these doctors, cardiology, all this stuff, and I'd been cleared. But now that I know this, all of these symptoms map directly back to chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And it was caused by mold, by a water leak in our house, and then mold set up. And I think what's also important to share is before 2023, rewind to 2021, that fall, so we had already had the water leak in the spring. We went through the summer. That fall, my husband got sick. He had a virus of some sort. And in October of 2021, my husband got really sick. And he had to quit jiu-jitsu. He was having shortness of breath, couldn't get through his patient visits, was having fainting spells. And we even had him in the back of an ambulance at one point. And we thought he had long COVID. In January of 2022, my little boy got a virus. And something wasn't right. Something was different with him. He was irritable. He was grumpy in a way that he had never been before. So I share this because once I got diagnosed with CIRS and we put the pieces together, the doctor encouraged us to have the whole family tested. And sure enough, my husband, genetic predisposition, virus, prolonged mold exposure. My little boy as well, genetic predisposition, virus, and prolonged mold exposure. So it got 3 of us. My little girl had no symptoms, thank God, and she's fine. But I share all of this. I want these symptoms. I want my experience to be documented so I can share it. So if you are experiencing some of these things, and if you're able to rule out everything else, it's not easy, but you're still sick, that it could be mold in your home or in your office or in your car, that could be making you sick. And the good news is recovery is possible. And through my work with Dr. Orsini, I have gone through heavy detoxing. I've had to be on a binder. I go to the sauna consistently. I had to move out of my home. We had to have it remediated. I had to get out of the mold environment, okay? And getting out of the mold environment, in my opinion, is the most important piece of this. If I'd continued to stay in that environment and try to detox, my system still couldn't recover. You have to get away and you have to detox so that your toxin level lowers, so that your system can calm, the inflammation can go down, and your systems can start to repair.